everyone, my name is Patrick Talks Too Much. I love the sound of my own voice, and you should too. That's absolutely my birth name, I'm absolutely that egotistical, and that was absolutely a demand of you and not just a silly catchphrase. So, let's talk about CreepShow art, or as I will be referring to her in this video, Shannon. As most of you watching probably know, Shannon is part of the art commentary community on YouTube, a community of people who talk about drama, current social issues, and so on over footage of their speed paints. Shannon's been posting since around 2018 or so. She started making her videos as a creative outlet while suffering through being homeless, never thinking it would go any farther than that. However, over the past couple of years, for a variety of reasons, she has exploded in popularity, growth, influence, and monetary gain. And for someone in the situation she was in, that would be a good thing, right? Well, with popularity, growth, influence, and increased income comes controversy. And Shannon is no stranger to controversy. Some of that controversy is justified, and some of it not so much. There have been many videos made from a wide variety of creators expressing their issues with Shannon, ranging from her scandals and fuck-ups, to her content in general, to her as a person. But none was as popular nor as influential as the 30-minute call-out video essay, The Faults of CreepShow Art, released June 10th, 2020 by a user known as Tobi. Tobi is, or was, her channel's been dead for months, a commentary and general shitpost channel shockingly similar in branding and subject matter to Shannon's. She's no stranger to controversy herself. In her first and only year on YouTube, she amassed more scandals than can possibly even be summarized here in this intro. In short, she tried to frame fellow YouTuber Ben the Looney as a pedophile.
Ben the Looney's a pedophile.
For drawing underage characters in sexual situations.
Hey Ben, you don't want to be called a pedophile. Don't draw underage looking children, fucking people.
Which, yeah, call that out. That's worth being concerned over, totally agree. But trying to claim that a couple of inappropriate drawings make you an out-and-out pedophile is absurd. He's long since apologized for this, and to my knowledge has changed his behavior. When an acquaintance of Tobi's, who was also friends with Ben, one-man show-off, wanted nothing to do with the conflict, Tobi tried to blackmail him into siding with her or else be publicly called out as an accomplice to a pedophile.
Trent, was also gonna do a video on him. Don't worry about him. He's just a stupid little beta cuck who doesn't like any controversy, even though he loves to stab people in the back because he's a fucking little beta cuck.
Tobi recommended explicit and problematic yaoi to her fanbase, many of whom we can presume to be minors, and in September of last year she started a feud with several fellow art commentary creators, Omnia and Weiss, after they criticized her for her various scandals as well as for being a hypocrite. Somehow Tobi and her friends got it in their heads that saying, by your own logic, your own standards that you have set, that drawing underage characters in sexual scenarios makes you a pedophile, only for you yourself to draw a minor character in a sexual scenario that makes you no better than the people you hate, is them saying she is definitively a pedophile. You know, because they applied her logic and her standards for other people back onto her. That makes sense and wasn't stupid at all. Ugh, trust me, there is way more to this drama that I am leaving out. If you want the short of it, see either Spoctor's video or Thuman's first video. If you want the long of it, see Junkie and Phantom's video. Despite Tobi's controversies tanking her credibility, The Faults of CreepShow Art is still viewed by many as being a good source of criticism. Despite this, Tobi rather abruptly decided to private the video on October 9th, 2020. She stated on her now deleted Twitter, quote, "I've been thinking about it for a while, and I decided to take down and private my CreepShow video, mostly because over the past couple of months, I've slowly stopped being proud of it for obvious reasons, and I just don't want it up anymore. There are several points in that video I feel I no longer agree with, and currently having the video up also stresses me out since I posted it. Maybe in the future I'll clean it up and put it back on my channel, but for now, I just don't want it up." End quote. I contest this explanation, however. Tobi has made a video on Shannon previously, my issue with CreepShow Art's Jaclyn video, Don't Hate Me Ooh, which he references in The Faults of CreepShow Art itself with utter disdain.
Yes, I already know I made a video about this, but shh, okay? Shut up. The video fucking sucked. Sonic Boom level of poo-poo.
She was clearly very self-conscious about it, and yet that video is still up on her channel even now while the far superior video was removed. I think the real reason she decided to private the video was because at the end of Dear Tobi and Madlibbs feat. Weiss, a response video, to Tobi's response video, to the original call-out video, Lord Jesus, this drama was a never-ending rabbit hole of suck. Kai Weiss said this.
You were supposed to be the girl who put CreepShow in her place. Sad that you ended up just like her.
Considering Tobi pulled the faults of CreepShow art just shy of 2 weeks after Dear Tobi and Madlibbs feat Kai Weiss was released, it makes me think Tobi's ego was a tad damaged. Keep in mind, though, that this is complete speculation on my part. I am totally willing to accept it was nothing more than coincidence. Just saying, kinda fishy. Now, to be quite frank, it really irritated me that despite Tobi's feuds with Ben the Looney, One Man Showoff, Omnia, and Kai really revealed Tobi as someone not to be taken seriously as a credible source of information, people still thought she was correct with her criticism against Shannon, which really confuses me. Like, guys, if she's willing to lie about 4 people and reveal herself to be this petty and disorganized, why do you think this one video is the exception? I was able to download a copy of the Faults of CreepShow art before it was privated and dove deep to double check Tobi's claims. And let me tell you, what I uncovered was far beyond anything I could have expected. My thesis statement for this video is this. You have been lied to. You have been manipulated. You have been fed biased, skewed, and false information. I'm here to dismantle the faults of CreepShow art piece by piece and correct the mountains of bad faith arguments and blatant misinformation in this video because if I don't, nobody else will. Trust me, we have a lot of material to go over here. 4 entire videos worth, in fact. Yes, it will take that long to explain all of this. Correcting misinformation is always quadruple the length of the misinformation itself. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it.
I'll be completely honest, I've been super stressed about this video, and the only reason that I'm doing it is because nobody else really will. I ended up trying to get a collaboration from a couple of different people about this topic, seeming as a lot of people that I talked to had the same opinions that I did and the same kind of points that I did. However, that was a little difficult because a lot of creators, the second that I told them what the video was going to be on, they immediately were like, I don't want to be in drama. So for some fucking reason, it seems like I'm the only person not scared of her goddamn fan base, which is false. I am. I'm just cocky because one of my videos got 30k views and now I think I'm hot shit. I'm not. However, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, considering all that I'm going to be covering, I'm not surprised nobody wanted anything to do with this. Any self-respecting commentator would take one look at this video and back away very slowly. My personal hunch is that most creators assumed this video would cause a community meltdown and only supported it, or at least turned a blind eye to its flaws post-release because it went over well with audiences and didn't provoke Shannon too much. But that's just speculation on my part. Forgive me, but after seeing people like Tobi, Hopeless Peaches to a certain extent, and especially prison mate Luke self-destruct and be exposed for misrepresenting themselves and others, it's made me somewhat cynical to the community at large. In Chapter 1, Who is CreepShow Art?, Tobi explains Shannon's past content, rise to popularity, and her own history with that content. None of it is particularly relevant at the moment, so I'm skipping it for now and am moving on to Chapter 2 of her video, Crossing a Line. Before we fully dive into that chapter, there are several things I want to address. Jim Eilers was a public figure. All of the information Shannon read aloud was from his website that he and or his associates put forth. She didn't dox him. Moderately sized left tuber Maggie Mae Fish released her own video on the subject, Jaclyn Hill, Lipstick and Capitalism, A Love Story, on June 8th, 2019. It came out way before Shannon's, yet all of the issues that people had with Shannon's video, comparing Jaclyn's behavior to her father's, digging into Jaclyn's background and past, making fun of Jaclyn in general, were all present in Maggie's video as far as being well more detailed and explicit. Maggie used the exact same website that Shannon did as a resource, and yet she didn't get called out for it. If Shannon's video was a sharp jab, then Maggie's video was a sledgehammer to the fucking kneecaps. Hell, Maggie called Jaclyn a greedy hyper-capitalist in no uncertain terms. Despite this, the video is better received with very positive comments and a much better like-to-dislike ratio compared to Shannon's. Hell, someone in Maggie's comment section actually brought up the controversy Shannon's video received. Jones, quote, "This topic is back in the zeitgeist thanks to Jaclyn sending her millions of cult members after a small YouTuber, Shannon, for making a video where all she did was read Jaclyn's father's own website. This seems like the perfect time to link link this video to everyone who is so concerned about Jaclyn's father's private life and how it shouldn't have any bearing on how we view Jaclyn. End quote. Maggie also hearted this comment, by the way, so take that as you will. The last few comments left on Jaclyn Hill's dad as a cult leader before Shannon unlisted it were from people berating her, as the video was posted the same month that Jim Eilers unfortunately passed away. LC, quote, "This video is not showing up on your video list. Had to find the link in a blog. Also, her dad died a few days after this," end quote. Summer Mallet, quote, "I hope you feel terrible for making this video. When you made this, Jaclyn was grieving the death of her father, and you made this about him. Sick and disgusting," end quote. Mackenzie Carey, quote, "I bet you feel pretty shitty making this video the same month that her father died. Something to be proud of, huh?" End quote. Boy! To the three of you, and anyone else who have given Shannon shit over this, you are all both misinformed and complete scumbags. Jaclyn Hill's dad as a cult leader was released March 4th, 2020, and Jim passed away in his sleep on the 20th. This video came out not a few days afterwards, but several weeks. Nor did it come out as Jaclyn was grieving the death of her father. He died abruptly in his sleep. There is no way Shannon could have known that would happen. Guys, the idea that Shannon should be shamed for this is absolutely asinine. Do you guys really have to eat Jaclyn's validation pussy so bad that you need to guilt trip someone over something like this? Do you not realize how fucked up that is? Okay, let's get to Tobi's actual points.
Yes, I already know I made a video about this, but shh, okay? Shut up. The video fucking sucked. Sonic Boom level of poo-poo.
A few moments later.
Now, I've already made a video on this, so I won't go too much into it.
A few minutes later.
Alright, whatever. I made a video about it because I was pissy about it, okay? The video was fucking confusing and it fucking sucked. That was before I started scripting, but don't worry, this one's scripted. Don't fucking worry.
This confuses the hell out of me. Why would you simultaneously complain about how much you hate that previous video, but also say you're not going to discuss the situation very deeply here because that was done previously in the older video that you hate, that you consider flawed and inferior? Why would you want people to go and get their information from a video you don't approve of anymore? Why would you not, rework that video's material here with better wording and structure? That just seems really fucking dumb.
Basically, in the video, Shannon talks about Jaclyn's father, who's not, in her life, and hasn't been for a long time for personal reasons that's none of our fucking business, and how he has some, weird evangelical church in Africa or some shit. However, Shannon in the video kind of frames it more as if it's a cult, when it's not a cult. Not saying that it's better or worse, it's not a cult, it's an evangelical church, which, let's all be fucking real, it's kind of a cult, but it's not, though.
Oh. I want that paragraph to linger. Let the stupidity of it flow into you. This is the dumbest paragraph I have ever seen in a video essay. I felt like my brain was liquefying and dribbling from my ears while listening to it. Let's break down the absolute monumental fuckery we just heard. She talks about how he has some weird evangelical church in Africa or some shit. Are you for real? That is a horrible wording that makes it look as though you have no idea what you're talking about, since you can't be specific. This is even more egregious because Shannon told you what Jim's organization was in her video that she read directly from his website.
Jim was a youth pastor for 6 years in Illinois before God called him into the full-time ministry in 1998. The heart of Jim Eilers is about saving souls. It is their desire to take the gospel of Jesus Christ to places where he has not not yet been publicly proclaimed. Their evangelical ministry has taken them to many nations. Since 1998, they have seen well over 1 million people born into the kingdom of God. Jim has seen multitudes of people healed both here in America and abroad as they minister and encourage people in churches throughout America and on foreign fields. Jim has seen crowds of 50 to 150,000 people gather in a single night of their crusades to hear the gospel of Jesus preached to them. In one 5-night crusade alone, they saw over 270,000 people born again. He has witnessed tremendous miracle healings in his crusades. This is but a few of the thousands upon thousands of bodily healings that he has witnessed God perform at his crusades around the world and in the USA. In the Khufu Zambia crusade, a woman was brought to the crusade who had fallen and broken her back.
Tobi, this is basic stuff. This isn't deep lore. The website says it was an evangelical ministry that was making crusades in third world countries to spread Christianity. The website says crusades a total of 6 times. There is no way you could have missed that. Why didn't you show clips of Shannon reading from the website like I did? Or at the very least, flash the little bit she used up on screen. Something. Anything. Shannon frames it as though it's more of a cult when it's not a cult. I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's not a cult. It's an evangelical church. I mean, let's all be fucking real, it's kind of a cult, but it's not though? Make up your mind. Is it a cult or not? You start off saying, or some shit, so indecisive, then you definitively say it's an evangelical church, then it's kind of a cult, then back to not being a cult. You flip-flopped 4 times in a single paragraph. You need to word things clearly and carefully. This is confusingly worded and utterly moronic. And ultimately, you still got it wrong because the focus was on crusades.
And then she goes and crosses a line and says,
"This man is the man who put his hoo-ha into someone else to make Jaclyn. So I guess we know where she learned how to bold-face lie online. So much so that she made an entire brand off it. And like him, they both made brands off this. Oh my god, I'm losing it. I am losing it. There's total crackhead energy right now. Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this."
Oh, I get to have a field day with this one. 1, there is way too little of the video actually shown. There's only roughly 25 seconds of footage used and not used particularly well. You're willing to include inane ramblings about crackhead energy, but not of Shannon discussing the actual point of her fucking video. 2, the clip she uses makes Shannon look overreaching and needy, disgusted that Jaclyn didn't make something personal to her public. However, when you listen to the clip in full, we're told a very different story.
This is insane to me, and it's even more insane to me that Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this. She has talked about her and her family and how they used to travel to Africa, and she traveled so much when she was younger, and she's talked about how they went there like 9 times, but never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS. She never said that, ever. And I wonder why. I wonder if it's like, oh, that man probably taught you to lie. I wonder if that's why she kept it private.
Yeah, amazing what context can do for a quote. Shannon was actually alleging that Jaclyn was open about her family trips to Africa, but left out her father and his ministry. Shannon shows no evidence that Jaclyn discussed these trips, but excluded her father, and honestly, I'm not gonna dig through Jaclyn's back catalog to look for it, that's why I'm using alleging. The implication Shannon is making is that Jaclyn hid this because if her father's past doings were out in the open, people might compare his questionable business dealings with Jaclyn's. Mind you, Shannon's point was not expressed well. She delivered it sarcastically when it needed to be stated more bluntly, her wording is atrocious, and she didn't have the evidence to back up her allegations. But despite that, it's still a far cry from what you presented, Tobi. You intentionally cut context. This was not a mistake either, as your previous video does include the full clip. You intentionally misled people to make your point appear stronger. This was incredibly fucking dishonest on your part. Seriously, a few months later you went on to lie about Omnia cutting up DMs between you two, when you actually cut up Shannon's video.
Gee, it's almost as though you've repeatedly proven yourself to be a hypocrite or something.
These comments Shannon made in her video are kind of very much over the line and in very poor taste.
You know, for someone who is supposedly a fan of Shannon's, you seem to really not get what the appeal of her content was and still is. Poor taste is a part of her brand. She's gaudy, she's tacky, she's blunt, she's weird and random. That's the persona she's put on. And as for the hoo-ha to make Jaclyn quote, how is it over the line? You never bother going into it, you don't explain why it's over the line or in poor taste, you just say that it is and expect it to stick. I know you go into more depth with it in the other video, but why would you not at the very least give a Cliff Notes version of your reasonings here?
And many other people felt the same way. Even a fellow creator friend of mine told me that she'd brought it up to Shannon, saying, hey, what the fuck? What the fuck was that video? Excuse me, that point you made? Excuse you, I'm sorry, what the fuck? And Shannon got very defensive and just straight up kind of just ignored my friend and kind of just brushed her off. At the end of it all, seeing Shannon handle things in a very poor and childishly defensive way was a bit disheartening and made me feel a little disappointed, to be completely honest. She would lash out at people tweeting against her and that didn't have the same opinion as her.
None of which you show. Actually, the only evidence you show throughout this entire section is roughly 25 seconds of cut-up footage from Shannon's video. Your word is unreliable. There's no way I'm gonna believe that A, these tweets existed at all, or B, that they said what you claim they did without proof. I shouldn't have to disengage myself from your video to go double check your own fucking claims. It's your job to provide the necessary evidence. To further fuck this situation up the ass, Shannon nuked her Twitter after fellow YouTuber without a crystal ball doxed her. Another unrelated situation I'm not covering with a 10-foot pole. So any proof that we may have had is now gone. That's why it's important to show and back up evidence like this. You know,
In case it gets deleted.
why should I believe Shannon said boo without any evidence to back it up, especially from you of all people? Shannon has spoken about the situation herself, and her side of the story contradicts yours. In her video, the Antivaxx Defender ASMR channel, Karuna Satori, Shannon brings up the Jaclyn Hill situation as it overlaps with that drama as well. Trust me, it is going to be absolutely coconuts when we eventually get to it. During which she says this.
Despite people saying I was getting a lot of hate, it wasn't all that much. I know a lot of people tweeted that I should be prepared for a lot of hate, and I know there was like some people like, oh, you crossed the line, but I got a total of 7 DMs telling me to take the video down and that I'm an asshole and I'm a bully, but like that's 7 DMs, so I wasn't like drowning in it. I honestly expected more, and I don't understand why there wasn't more, so if you want, feel free to send me hate on Twitter.
So, question. If Shannon was so quick to victimize herself, if she had such an issue with people criticizing her and was so defensive, why would she say this? She clearly differentiates between people criticizing her, saying she crossed a line and so on, and actual hate, people mocking her, calling her an asshole, and demanding the video be taken down. If Shannon was so convinced everyone was ganging up on her, why would she express genuine confusion at a lack of hate and say she didn't feel threatened? It gives perspective to her side of things that any replies she made to people criticizing her was intended as a debate rather than lashing out or being mindlessly defensive. Granted, this is Shannon's word against Tobi's with no evidence to back it up. Shannon could just be hyping herself up and pretending to be more composed than she actually was. But if there's evidence that proves she was indeed lashing out and being defensive and shows her statement to be a lie,
Tobi should have fucking shown it.
Alright, whatever. I made a video about it because I was pissy about it, okay?
So you admit that your previous video was born out of spite?
Because you were pissy.
Giving the ball away a bit early, aren't we? So, since Tobi's been hyping this other video up so much, let's get into that, shall we? Yep. Be excited, double feature. We're getting 2 Tobi videos for the price of 1. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Real quick, when Tobi said this video was a hot mess, she wasn't kidding. It's very bad. Like, she's bad enough with a script, and without one she's barely intelligible. There may be some jarring cuts throughout this section. This video is filled with unnecessary asides, long pauses, and ramblings that I'm just chopping out for the sake of time. I'm explaining this up front for full transparency. I'm linking her video, which is still up on her channel, below, so you can be sure I'm not misrepresenting her.
In my feed recently, I saw that she had made a video, somebody retweeted it, about Jaclyn Hill's dad being a cult leader. And I'm like, my initial reaction was, huh, okay. And then I kept scrolling because I didn't care. Because, look, okay, so like, look, guys, look, okay, I don't care, okay, Jaclyn Glenn, that whole situation, I don't care. She picked a bad lab that she didn't know that was shitty. She made a bad decision, and then she fucking was told probably false information by her team that they were probably lying or whatever, and then she tried to play it up, and then she fucking it was just a big shit show. She tried to backtrack. I just think she did a lot of things wrong, but I don't think she had bad intentions, to be completely fucking honest. And also, at the end of the day, who fucking cares? It's fucking hairy lipstick, okay? Like who cares? I don't care. I don't want to watch another fucking Jaclyn Hill video. I literally don't fucking care.
I had to wait for 7.5 minutes before she actually got to the point of the video, and boy oh boy is this first point a doozy. 1. If you don't care about what's going on, admit you don't care about what's going on, then why are you talking about what's going on? Why would you criticize Shannon and defend Jaclyn from the drama surrounding her as though you actually care if you don't? 2. Jaclyn picking a bad lab out of incompetence and being misinformed by her team is speculation on your part based on nothing. We don't know what Jaclyn's relationship with her team is like behind the scenes. How and why did you come to this conclusion? If you have evidence to support your theory, why aren't you showing it to us, the ones you're trying to sway with your arguments? Because as is, I'm sorely unconvinced. 3. Are you insane? It's hairy lipstick, okay? Who cares? For one, it wasn't just hairy lipsticks. Maggie Mae Fish thoroughly explained the situation in her video, Jaclyn Hill, Lipstick and Capitalism, a love story, saying,
"Recently, I've been fascinated by Jaclyn Hill and Lipstick Gate, wherein makeup YouTuber Jaclyn Hill released a line of lipsticks that were hairy, moldy, had bits of plastic.
Oh my god, is this plastic? No.
And even pieces of metal.
That's definitely metal.
And a chemist recently came forward in a YouTube video stating that she believes that she may have found mouse hair in one of her lipstick samples.
I believe that the hairs that I found are not all synthetic, but I do believe that I found some that came from an animal.
And denied that anything was wrong.
Every single ingredient in my lipstick is new and it is FDA approved.
It literally looks like a toenail.
FDA approved.
There are many theories as to how and why this happened. Some internet sleuths think that they've found the lab that Jaclyn Hill used to manufacture her lipsticks. It has terrible reviews and is clearly a cheap option to maximize profits at the expense of quality.
If these major contaminants ended up in the lipsticks, there's no telling what kind of bacteria could have been in there as well. If someone used one of those lipsticks and was cut by a stray shard of metal or sliver of plastic, they could have potentially gotten an infection from God knows what kind of bacteria breeding in them. If the manufacturer was this lazy and careless to let foreign particles end up in their product, what's to say that potentially harmful chemicals couldn't have ended up in there as well? Several customers who used Jaclyn's lipsticks had allergic reactions and developed lumps akin to cold sores that had to be looked at by their dermatologist. And besides the legitimately harmful contaminants and allergic reactions, the lipsticks were just shit quality in general. Some of them melted in their boxes, some crumbled or broke on first use, and any of them with fuzz or other large particles would smear and deform due to the detritus shifting around in the lipstick. And to top it all off, they were ungodly expensive. An influencer, Raw Beauty Christie, bought the full collection and it cost her $333.10 in total. Your assertions that people should have just kept their mouths shut and silently eaten the cost because you personally were tired of hearing about it really shows just how fucking entitled entitled you really are. This isn't the first time that Jaclyn has made questionable business decisions either.
3 years ago, Jaclyn Hill created a custom highlighter with Becca Cosmetics that she marketed as a limited edition, meaning as soon as they sold out, there'd be no more. But after they sold out, it was restocked in stores only a few months later. And a few months after that, it was literally added to their permanent collection. This is known as artificial scarcity, when a company pretends that there is a limited amount of a product to make it seem more exclusive and valuable. Jaclyn Hill is not the only person who does this in the makeup industry, and it's fairly common in capitalism. Jaclyn just happens to be a repeat offender, meaning that we can probably assume that she's doing it knowingly and not just as a mistake. Then, about a year ago, Jaclyn released a palette of eyeshadows called The Vault, which were all leftover shadows that she didn't put in her original palette with Morphe. The Vault was old, unused product thrown together haphazardly to make a profit. And lo and behold, it was bad. The formula felt terrible and beauty gurus hated it. So Jaclyn was like, oh my god, you know what? These reviews were so bad that Morphe decided to redo all the palettes. Morphe told their customers that they fixed the palettes, except, well, from all accounts, that didn't happen. When it was re-released, people had the exact same problem, leading many to believe that they had lied, simply because Morphe would rather repackage flawed product and sell it anyways, instead of throwing away thousands of palettes that they had already made.
So, yeah, people's issues with Jaclyn and her products are not a new thing, nor unfounded. Lipstickgate was just the worst in a long line of shitty business practices Jaclyn and her collaborators were pulling on their customers. So, Tobi, unless you're willing to spend ungodly amounts of money to put unknown fuzz, mold, plastic chunks, and shards of metal against your lips and love it, shut your fucking mouth!
Who put his hoo-ha into someone else to make Jaclyn. So I guess we know where she learned how to boldface lie online. So much so that she made an entire brand off it. And like him, like, they both made brands off this.
First criticism that the backlash was towards was this part of, obviously, and she actually says it later on, and I'll just say it now, Jaclyn has put, it says it in her wiki, but she's also retweeted to this video stating this as well. She's been estranged from her father for about, 10 or so years, and the way that she talks about it and the fact that she's never really talked about him obviously probably means you're not very fond of this person. It's not somebody that you like to talk about, whether it's a sensitive subject or not. It's not for us to decide, as it's none of our fucking business at all what it is with what kind of relationship she has with her father in detail, obviously. But all we know is that she does not like her father. She is probably very against what he does. She said that that's where she learned how to bold-face lie. And I think she was just saying it as a passing comment, but once again, it was too far of a thing, considering their relationship. It's not okay to say that. Number two, the fact that we don't know anything. You don't know anything about her dad except from that one article that could be written by who fucking knows who. We don't even know how true it could be.
Tobi, it was a joke. It was a fucking joke. I know this is very difficult for you and the rest of the internet to understand, but it was a joke. It was a shitty and unfunny joke, I'll give you that, but a joke nonetheless. For anyone out there dumb enough to need it spelled out for them, the joke is that Jim is a liar, and when he had a child with Jaclyn's mother, his lying tendencies were passed down to Jaclyn, who, in turn, built up her brand off of falsehoods. That's the joke Shannon was making. I'm not entirely sure why people took it so seriously. Do you guys just not understand how tone and the English language in general works? Are people really this fucking clueless? This joke is stupid and it should have been cut, but it's in no way the massive attack on Jaclyn's character people have been portraying it as. How did any of you listen to this paragraph and think, oh yeah, no, she's being totally literal, guys?
With evangelical churches, there's two kinds of people, okay? There are sociopaths who blatantly lie to people knowing that these people are stupid. That's how they think in their mind, that all these fucking stupid people are dumb and they're giving me money. Ha ha ha. You think I healed you, but it's actually just a big stage act. Her father could either be a sociopath who is lying and who knows, who doesn't care, or he's crazy and he thinks he's actually doing this. Either way, it's not relevant because you're trying to put him doing all this shit compared to her making a bunch of hairy lipsticks. The difference is intention. Okay? Intention is very different. Now, let's go with the narrative that the dad he's aware of all this. He knows it's all bullshit. He just doesn't fucking care. With religious leaders who tend to be like that, number one, a lot of them tend to be sociopaths. And then also, they don't have empathy. They don't fucking care. But with Jaclyn, I really think people give her more hate than it's deserved. I literally think that she just fucks up a lot. She just makes a lot of very dumb choices. I really do think at some level she actually does care, though. But I do think that she just makes a lot of very stupid choices, very misguided, hiccups and shit that lead her to this point. And people are like, but every time I'm like, yeah, some people are just that dumb.
Everything said here is nothing but more baseless speculation. Tobi, you said it yourself. We know very little about Jaclyn's life behind the scenes. Because of that, we are working completely in the dark as to what Jaclyn's current motivations are and what her late father's motivations were. Is Jaclyn Hill a well-meaning dumbass being manipulated by her staff, or is she a shrewd businesswoman who holds profits higher than the safety or satisfaction of her own customers? We don't know. We don't know what was or what is going on behind the scenes. Was Jim Eilers a well-meaning religious fanatic who genuinely believed everything his website said, or was he a scam artist who knew he was selling a bunch of bullshit to get donations? Again, we don't know. The only one who may know is Jaclyn, and as you have repeatedly stated, she's not obligated to say anything one way or another. Now, while we can't make assumptions of their character, i.e. them as people, since we don't have the full story, we can look at their public actions. And their public actions are very telling. Jim Eilers wrote about impossible miracles of healing being performed by God thanks to his crusades, and was asking for donations to fund said crusades, and Jaclyn sold a bunch of products to her fans that she promised were premium quality when they were, in fact, garbage. In both cases, money was being taken for a false positive, be they miracles from heaven to be performed on sick Africans or shit quality makeup. That is an inherent connection between the two. They have both done similar things. Shannon was simply pointing that out, though I will concede she did not do it well.
This is insane to me, and it's even more insane to me that Jaclyn, despite being apparently estranged from him since about 2012, has never mentioned this. She has talked about her and her family and how they used to travel to Africa, and she traveled so much when she was younger, and she's talked about how they went there like 9 times, but never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS. She never said that, ever. And I wonder why. I wonder if it's like, oh, that man probably taught you to lie. I wonder if that's why she kept it private. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm so freaking tired.
I don't understand how she does not... I don't understand exactly how she does not see why it's... Like, the whole statement, I'm sitting here literally going, why? I don't understand what's your question. I don't understand what you don't understand from this. Why she doesn't want to talk about, why she didn't mention her father who has this evangelical fucking shit going on in Africa or whatever. Maybe because since she's estranged from her father, estranged meaning she does not love him, she has mixed or negative feelings about him for personal reasons that is none of our business unless she makes it public.
You're missing what she's actually getting at. I already discussed this in my previous section, but I'll repeat it for the people in the back. Shannon is not saying that Jaclyn needs to air all of her dirty laundry, all of her negative familial experiences to her audience. Shannon's alleging that Jaclyn was leaving context out of these stories for, on a surface glance, no real reason. Even if Jaclyn didn't like her father, it doesn't make sense she'd cut him and the motivations for going on these trips from her stories about going on the trips. The implication Shannon's making is that Jaclyn hid this because if her father's past doings were out in the open, people might compare them to Jaclyn's. Again, Shannon shows no evidence of this, and honestly, I'm not going to dig through Jaclyn's back catalog to look for it. That's why I'm using alleging. While Shannon's point was very poorly expressed, it's still far different than your interpretation of it.
You said put his hoo-ha in somebody, right? Meaning that she also has a different party, aka her mother, who she is very close with. Don't you think that, if anything, the kind of things that she would pick up from somebody is a parent that she respects, that she loves, and that's been with her through her entire life, versus someone she probably didn't have a close relationship with for obvious fucking reasons? This happened in 2012. Obviously, shit doesn't just fucking happen out of nowhere. It builds up over time. You don't just fucking turn around and just hate your parent because of like one thing, because they got a divorce. No, you hate them. Like, I know some kids do, but like in this situation, obviously, she has never mentioned him. She does not talk about him. Nothing. Obviously, shit's been going on before 2012.
Tobi never mentions what age Jaclyn was when her parents got divorced, and for a point I'll be getting into later, that information is crucial. So, I decided to check out Jaclyn's Wikipedia page. The section didn't have any specifics regarding the divorce, but it did have a citation. That citation is for a 2015 video called Q&A, Marriage, Kids, Divorce, Food. The video is, well, a Q&A where Jaclyn answers personal questions sent to her via Twitter. Many people asked about her father and if she still had contact with him, to which she replied with this.
Someone asked if I had contact with my father, and no, I don't have contact with him at all, in any way whatsoever. I don't have contact with him. My parents, like I have said, they went through a divorce, a really horrible, ugly, nasty divorce years ago. The divorce was finalized. When was it finalized? I feel like it was like 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. The divorce was finalized, and I have not talked to him since. I haven't talked to him in like 2.5 to 3 years. So, that's one. I have like a couple subjects of things that I've gone through in the past few years that are extremely touchy, and that's one of them. Like, I have a very, very big heart now, though, for people who go through horrible divorces, for people who, you know, are stolen from or taken from, or people who have like lost their father, whether it's to death, whether it's a divorce, no matter what it is. Like, it's giving me a really huge heart for those type of people, because I never in a million years thought that I would lose my dad. I never in a million years thought that my parents would get a divorce. I felt so bad for every one of my friends who had divorced parents. I just felt like, oh my God, that's so heartbreaking that like their parents live in 2 different homes now. Like, I never thought that would be me. So my parents' divorce was definitely humbling, brought me down to earth, but showed me what a queen my mom was, and showed me what my father was. So yeah, I no longer have contact with him. None of us do. It sucks, because he was definitely my hero. Oh my God, I'm not going to cry. But we were very, very close. We would all call our family the dream team, because we were all so close growing up, and I'm so thankful for that. My dad was my very best friend. We have a lot of similarities. Yeah, so extremely, extremely close. So to have him do what he did and kind of turn on us, and the divorce was just, it was heartbreaking. So it sucks. It's a really sensitive subject, but it sucks, and he's no longer around. So that's that.
When I watched this video, my jaw hit the fucking floor. Tobi didn't actually bother to double check her assumptions, and as a result is speculating based off of her lack of knowledge. Jaclyn's video makes huge portions of Tobi's irrelevant. Don't you think that, if anything, the kinds of things Jaclyn would pick up from somebody would be from the parent she respects and loves and has been with her entire life, versus someone she didn't have a close relationship with for obvious fucking reasons? Based on Jaclyn's framing of the situation in the video, the divorce was a fairly recent thing at the time the Q&A was posted, only a handful of years old at the time. According to Google, the average length it takes to complete a divorce is 11 months or 18 months if taken to trial. Jaclyn says the divorce was messy, so it may have been longer in her case. She mentions in the Q&A that at time of recording she was 24, so in 2012, when her parents officially divorced, she would be 20 to 21. Even if it was a several year-long divorce, Jaclyn would still have been an older teenager and potentially have already moved out by the time the turmoil that led to divorce started. Based Based on Jaclyn saying she was very close with her parents as a child, and her discussing the divorce as though it were a recent event, it can be inferred Jaclyn was with her father the entirety of her growing up. Children are little sponges who absorb everything around them as a part of their development, and as I just went over, Jaclyn was potentially with her father all throughout that development. If that's the case, it's entirely possible she could have picked up certain bad habits or mindsets from him. Lying and manipulating people to get what you want, for instance. Since Tobi wants to theorize that Jim was potentially abusive, let's say that, for the sake of argument, he was a complete asshat who treated Jaclyn very poorly growing up. My previous point still stands. We are shaped by the people around us and our experiences with them, good or bad. It's not as though we only take in habits and worldviews from nice people. If that were the case, children of an abusive or addictive parent wouldn't be at risk for perpetuating the cycle of abuse and addiction, since, by your logic, they would only take in positive traits from positive people in their lives. You don't suddenly turn around and hate your parents because of one thing like a divorce. Well, clearly that was the case for Jaclyn. She says that pre-divorce she had a good relationship with her father and only lost the desire to associate with him when he turned on the family. The divorce is what hurt her. Even before my double check leading me to the Q&A, your claim sounded wrong. So I googled effects divorce has on children and teens and immediately found 4 websites that explained how divorce affects children of various ages. Very Well Family, for example, stated the following, quote, "Young children often struggle to understand why they must go between 2 homes. They may worry that if their parents can stop loving one another, that someday their parents may stop loving them. Grade school children may worry that the divorce is their fault. They may fear they misbehaved, or they may assume they did something wrong. Teenagers may become quite angry about a divorce and the changes it creates. They may blame one parent for the dissolution of the marriage, or they may resent one or both parents for the upheaval of the family." Tobi, there's no reason you couldn't have double-checked this assumption. In any case, it doesn't even fucking matter because you contradict yourself literally in the same sentence saying, "Well, I mean, some kids do," thereby debunking your own point. Obviously, shit's been going on before 2012. Based on what? We already discussed that the divorce was what severed Jaclyn's connection with her father, and that they had a good relationship previously. What is there to suggest that there was anything going on? Again, Jaclyn may have explained this at some point in some video, but I am not dredging through her whole channel to find it. That should have been your job, Tobi, as the one making the claims. You show no evidence to back this up, so why should I take it seriously? To be clear, much of my rebuttal is founded off speculation as well, based on the information present in the Q&A video. I could totally be wrong. We don't have the details of this situation, and I do agree with Tobi when she says we're not entitled to that information. The point is, however, that Tobi's speculation can be written off by Jaclyn's own testimony. All of you geniuses had been countering Shannon's speculations about Jaclyn's life with speculations of your own. I genuinely think that the people criticizing Shannon only saw Jaclyn's tweet and or only read that vague paragraph on her wiki and looked no further into it. I should not be able to debunk a good-sized portion of your claims simply by going to Jaclyn's fucking Wikipedia page, you morons! Guess what, Tobi? You have an entire comment section filled with people cheering you on for sticking it to Shannon, when in actuality you are just as complacent, lazy with your research, and speculative as she is. The confirmation bias in this situation is staggering. Fuck off with this shit, all of you. This is absolutely inexcusable.
This is where we get into my main issue with how this was handled, how this played out, especially on Shannon CreepShow's end. This is the main reason why I'm angry. Now, if this whole thing happened and she felt like people thought it was too far, she like apologized, "Hey guys, like I'm really sorry that I made that point. I'm sorry you guys felt like that, blah, blah, blah." I would not have a problem right now at all. I'd be like, okay, like whatever, who cares? My problem throughout this whole thing, the online responses, it seemed like CreepShow didn't really grasp exactly why people were angry, even though many people, I think a lot of people, I think she might have gotten, I don't want to say confused because that's a little insulting to say that. I think maybe she read a lot of responses and got an idea of when people would say stuff like, oh, bringing family into it is going too far, whatever. And I think maybe she formed her like argument, like her defense through those, even though the majority of the messages and the comments and the tweets were about the fact that you were comparing them so closely when it has been already pre-established that Jaclyn does not have a good relationship with her father.
I have explained ad nauseum as to why the comparing them so closely argument is stupid, so I'm skipping it. As for Shannon lashing out at people criticizing her, like the other video, you don't show any proof, so I don't fucking care. I know you can clip things from Twitter, you were able to display a collage of tweets opposing Shannon's video just fine, but you can't get more than 2 reactions from Shannon herself. 2 reactions I agree with, by the by. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow March 4th, 2020. Quote, gotta be honest, but if anyone, famous or not, has a father that says he publicly cured AIDS by touching someone or speaking to them, I'm talking about it. I really don't give a fuck, because what that person did publicly is fucked. End quote. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow March 4th, 2020. Quote, here's the thing, I talk about Jaclyn in the video for like 5 seconds because to me it's weird. It would be weird if my father or any YouTuber's father was doing this publicly regardless of where their relationship stands or not. Like, it's a weird ass thing, so I talked about it. End quote. And speaking of the tweets you flash on screen, I have major issues with some of them. Several of the tweets you show make the controversy surrounding this video look all the dumber. Let's take a closer look to see what I mean. Hufflepuff Stan7 at Stan Hufflepuff March 5th, 2020, replying to at SM CreepShow, quote, I think it's because Jaclyn doesn't want to associate herself with her father, and for you to put that out there that he's her dad, you knew Jaclyn in the thumbnail would get you views. You could have talked about this without mentioning Jaclyn a lot or putting her face in the thumbnail. End quote. Irene Hogan at Irene Bissy Hogan, March 5th, 2020, replying to at SM CreepShow, quote, you say you only talked about Jaclyn for 5 seconds and that it's all about her dad, but then you have to put her in the thumbnail and her name in the title? If he's done something completely bad, why would you bring his daughter into it if she's completely unrelated to the situation? End quote. Oh my ever-loving Christ, are you kidding me? Shannon put Jaclyn in the thumbnail because people would see her, see that it's her father, be intrigued, and watch the video. That's how creating content on YouTube works. You make eye-catching thumbnails and video titles. The absolute fucking horror. Explain to me, geniuses, why is it such a crime for Shannon to bring up Jaclyn when it's her father being discussed? Jaclyn is his daughter. That is a fact. It's because Jim was Jaclyn's father that Shannon was compelled to make a video in the first place. There's nothing inherently interesting about some random evangelical crackpot from years ago raving about how he helped heal the sick in Africa with the word of Jesus all by itself. It's only interesting in that it's someone with a connection to someone famous like Jaclyn. And let's be perfectly honest with ourselves. If this exact same situation was surrounding the parent of someone universally hated, like the Paul brothers for example, nobody would give a shit. If anything, Twitter would be cheering Shannon on and would be happily spinning the they learned their bad behavior from this family member narrative themselves. As for mentioning Jaclyn a lot, Shannon mentioned Jaclyn in several passing jokes and a poorly thought out allegation at the end. That's it. Maybe you would have known that if you'd actually watched the video you're bitching about instead of mindlessly regurgitating Jaclyn's tweet. We'll get to that in a minute, don't you worry. But if you thought those were stupid, get a load of this interaction. Philosopher Stoned at Smalley Wifey, March 5th, 2020, replying to at SM CreepShow, quote, to be honest, I kinda agree with Jaclyn. You associated her with her father without knowing where their relationship stands. She didn't have to say she disowned him. Not everything has to be public. You could have talked about him like you wanted, but you used Jaclyn's name for clicks. End quote. Mountain Dew sent me PR at SM CreepShow March 4th, 2020. Quote, here's the thing, I talk about Jaclyn in the video for like 5 seconds because to me it's weird. It would be weird if my father or any YouTuber's father was doing this publicly regardless of where their relationship stands or not. Like, it's a weird ass thing, so I talked about it. End quote. Philosopher Stoned at Smalley Wifey, March 5th, 2020. Quote, you still refer to Jim as Jaclyn Hill's father rather than his name. That's like saying Stephen Jones's father instead of Jim Jones himself, Jonestown. They're both doing effed up stuff, but the only thing connecting them is blood. End quote. Philosopher Stone says that Jaclyn shouldn't have had to specify that she disowned her father since Shannon never should have brought it up to begin with. I've already explained why that's a dumb point on everybody's part. Guys, you are allowed to discuss a celebrity's public figure family member even if they've cut ties. If one of Donald Trump's kids ditches and cuts themselves off from their family, they don't just get to demand the general public don't talk about their family simply because they're not close anymore. Free speech is a bitch. As long as they aren't slandering or doxing you, people can talk about information surrounding a public figure all they want, regardless of said public figure's feelings. After Shannon clarifies her stance, Philosopher Stone says, "You still refer to him as Jaclyn Hill's father rather than his name." This is blatantly untrue, as she says his name in the video.
I found out that her father is a man by the name of Jim Eilers. E-I-L-E-R-S. That's the name. I'm gonna call it Eilers. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced.
So, yeah, she did use his real name in the video. If you'd actually watched it, you would have known that. And if you were referring to the title and thumbnail instead of the video itself, the point is still stupid. Why would Shannon put Jim Eilers as the title? Nobody knows who that is. Even if she did put his name in the title, she'd still have to specify it was Jaclyn Hill's father anyway, so what does it even matter? And as for they're both doing effed up stuff, but the only thing connecting them is blood. Yeah, dipshit! That's the point! He's her father, she's his daughter, they both did effed up shit. That is an inherent connection between the two, you fucking morons! This is why it's important to actually stop and read the things you put in your video, Tobi. If these are a sample of the kinds of tweets Shannon was constantly receiving, I can understand why she was getting irritated with people and would start snapping at them. Stuff like these tweets makes it very difficult for me to try and take the situation seriously. It makes the people criticizing Shannon look like misinformed and clueless simps as they try to defend Jaclyn from arguments that were never made and points that were misrepresented using logic that makes no fucking sense. I don't blame Jones, the person from Maggie Mayfish's video comments section, for describing the situation as Jaclyn sending her millions of cult members after a small YouTuber, because honestly, that's what it feels like. People really needed to get their faces out of Jaclyn's hoo-ha and actually stop and think about what they were arguing and why.
That was a callback to Shannon's joke. Please, tell me, am I canceled now? Please tell me I'm canceled now.
But then, oh god then, the Jaclyn Hill situation happened. And if you weren't on Twitter, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about because the video itself didn't actually get that much hate. You see, my video talking about public information that has been talked about by other YouTubers like Maggie Mayfish and FastWeb, not to mention countless others, about how Jaclyn Hill's father is a fucking scam artist who says he can cure AIDS, caused a little bit of a stir on Twitter, simply because Jaclyn Hill retweeted it and said it was disgusting and an invasion of her privacy, which, I don't know, makes literally no sense if you watch the video, because I literally read this grown-ass man's public website and say, wow, this shit is weird, and only related to her as this is so weird that this is her father, who also is known for scamming people by selling falsehoods publicly the way Jaclyn is currently doing, because she's currently doing that right now with her palette formulas that cause allergic reactions and have caused a woman to have a severe allergic reaction that she needed to be in the hospital. If me reading publicly available information that has been discussed online countless times before is somehow bad only when I do it, only when she's trying to avert gaze for what she's doing that's wrong, then frankly, my dude, I don't give a damn. I could not get paid enough to give a shit. Because if you are going to say that I am a bully for doing that, then your bully bar is way too low. That's a blatant deflection, and it's also dumb as hell. But Jaclyn retweeted it, called me disgusting, and despite the fact that every single drama channel has talked about at least one person who wasn't a public persona, who is only attached to a public persona, suddenly everyone was now on my dick telling me what I did was not okay. Suddenly now it's not okay. You know, except for the people who actually watched the video and realized that, hey, maybe we should talk about a man who's scamming people by saying he cured AIDS. Maybe that is a scummy thing to do. Maybe it is fucked up. It's weird how people who watched the video got that message, but the people who didn't thought it was shitty.
So, the initial tweet was when she was promoting her video on her Twitter, saying, "We need to talk about how Jaclyn Hill's father is a full-on cult leader in Africa because somehow no one informed me of this, and I just ... Jaclyn Hill ended up retweeting it saying, "This is absolutely disgusting. I refuse to watch this video, but just the title and the thumbnail is so awful. What is wrong with you that you think that it's okay to even speak about my birth father when I haven't even spoken to him in 10 years? Mind your own damn business. Too far." She retweets Jaclyn's tweet saying, "So talking about how your dad scammed people and publicly said he cured AIDS is too much and disgusting, despite it being public on his website that literally is the first result on Google. Sure. Also, not the only one to say this since it's public information, but alright."
So, truth be told, I half agree with Jaclyn here. The title and thumbnail of Shannon's video are indeed awful. The thumbnail shows Jaclyn's father looming over her, looking in her general direction with a creepy smile. Jaclyn is front and center looking distraught, as though she's being directly affected by Jim and his cultish activities. The text, "Her dad is God," goes hand in hand with the video's title, "Jaclyn Hill's dad is a cult leader." Both quotes I take huge issue with. These two quotes are in reference to a LinkedIn profile with Jim's name Shannon found while doing research. She claims that the profile has its job listed as God.
I am literally sitting here telling you to your face that the man has a LinkedIn page where he says his current job is that he is God. His job is that he's God. He's just God.
There's an itty bitty little problem with that, however. That section of a LinkedIn profile, that's where the person's employer is listed. Yeah, let me show you a legitimate profile as an example. Big thanks to Layla Pats who commented on my old video to point this out. So, yeah. Shannon, this profile is claiming to be employed by God, not that they are God themselves. That seems like a hell of an oversight on your part, does it not? In any case, it doesn't even fucking matter because you yourself wrote off the profile's legitimacy in your own video.
Based on the fact that there isn't an image and his page appears to be inactive, I doubt that this is actually legitimate. I doubt that this is actually a thing that he made.
Hey, Shannon, this is extremely dishonest and manipulative on your part. You brought up flimsy and most likely false information, yet, despite writing it off, use it as the backbone not only for your title and thumbnail, but your entire reading of Jim's website. Shannon, you took your own misunderstanding of what the profile was saying, that Jim's occupation was God, to mean that he was pretending to be God, and as such was building up a cult of followers doing his crusades to believe that as well. Your framing of Jim in this video is extremely inconsistent. Sometimes you say he was claiming to be God himself, and other times you say he's just a delusional follower of God. You actually fuck up at one point, starting out saying that Jim was the one healing the woman with the broken back, then changed it mid-sentence to the word of God.
Jimmy boy, Jim Bulls over here, is a bona fide cult leader. No, I am not saying that to be cute. I'm not saying that to meme or prank you guys, but what absolutely positively is legitimate and does show that he is a cult leader is JimEilers.org, where he talks about, once again, how he is God and we should worship him. Jim was a youth pastor for 6 years in Illinois before God called him into the full-time ministry in 1998. The heart of Jim Eilers is about saving souls. It is their desire to take the gospel of Jesus Christ to places where he has not yet been publicly proclaimed. Their evangelical ministry has taken them to many nations. Since 1998, they have seen well over 1 million people born into the kingdom of God. Jim has seen multitudes of people healed both here in America and abroad as they minister and encourage people in churches throughout America and on foreign fields. Jim has seen crowds of 50 to 150,000 people gather in a single night of their crusades to hear the gospel of Jesus preached to them. In one 5-night crusade alone, they saw over 270,000 people born again. Jim welcomes the opportunity to preach, teach, and encourage those here in America. Jim says, if you have gotten too big to minister one person at a time, you have gotten too big. He welcomes the opportunity to minister in churches, prayer groups, home groups, small family, and friend gatherings. You never know where God has the next mighty man or woman of God hidden. He wants to plant the thought into the minds of people that he is this dope-ass guy doing dope-ass things, being Jesus's right-hand dude, throwing it up with God and Jesus all the time, everywhere. I get it. Sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. But that's not where it ends. It keeps going, and it takes a wild-ass turn. A wild-ass cult turn, if you will. Which you absolutely will, because I told you to, and I am the captain of the ship. He has witnessed tremendous miracle healings in his crusades. This is but a few of the thousands upon thousands of bodily healings that he has witnessed God perform at his crusades around the world and in the USA. In the Khufu Zambia crusade, a woman was brought to the crusade who had fallen and broken her back. God touched her mightily as she came up to the platform, testifying of her miracle, and then proceeded to dance before the Lord, kicking her legs high into the air. Another woman was brought on a stretcher and had been bedridden for 8 months, dying of AIDS and just given days to live. As the word of God was preached, she believed and got up the stretcher and began to run to the platform and dance, testifying of what the Lord had done for her. She was totally healed by the power of God. All the glory goes to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that is something that apparently this man did. Jaclyn Hill's father is now saying on his webpage, on his official webpage, with the help of his employer, God, he has single-handedly cured someone who had a broken back. A woman in Africa came to him with her back completely broken and was able to heal, and he was able to heal her, not using advanced medicine, not using technology. He just simply touched her, and the word of God touched her, and her back just fixed its damn self. This man did something that apparently Jesus did in the Bible, because of course he would. Seriously, this man is talking about a woman dying of literal AIDS in Africa and saying he saved her and healed her because she came to see him. So there is so much more on jimeilers.org if you want to go check it out. He includes testimonials of the crusades he has led, where he has helped save the sick and dying using only the power of God, where he has converted people, all of that, which I guarantee he didn't actually do. Like, he didn't heal anyone. That didn't, no. Never once has she talked about doing it because her father convinced a group of people in Africa that he was God and could cure them of any disease like AIDS.
Shannon, you read the article aloud! You know full well that Jim claimed to have witnessed miracle healings when he, the preacher, read the word of God aloud. Nothing more, nothing less. There is no fucking way you could misinterpret the website as Jim claiming to physically be God. But that's the narrative you wanted to push, so you twisted what the website was saying to fit your conclusion. You lied to us for the sake of clickbait. You even made a joke about it in your video as though that excuses any of this.
You're thinking, wow, Shannon, that all sounds super duper normal, and you're over-exaggerating for the sake of clickbait, which is highly unethical, and you're probably going to hell.
Don't get me wrong, what Jim was claiming on his website is bullshit. He strikes me as being a televangelist type. You know, those guys on TV back in the day that would heal people with the power of God on air. But televangelist didn't strike you as attention-grabbing enough, so you went with cult leader. I will defend your right to talk about Jim Eilers and Jaclyn Hill. You have the right to speak about them, but I will never defend you lying about them or anyone else. And you did lie about them.
That is insane, gross, manipulative, and fucking terrible. I don't think I need to go into detail about how terrible that is.
This is inexcusable! And the thing that kills me is that, as far as I know, nobody who has talked about this situation has ever brought this up. People were so focused on Jaclyn that they didn't actually bother to check if Shannon was representing literally anything else in the video correctly. Let that sink in. The same people who were looking for evidence of Shannon being a liar missed an example that was staring them in the fucking face. So, yeah, Jaclyn is completely justified in being disgusted by the title and thumbnail. However, I highly disagree with her saying that Shannon is out of line for speaking about her birth father, and that she needs to mind her own damn business as it's too far. Jaclyn, your late father's website was and still is accessible to the public. Shannon, as a member of the public, is within her rights to read the website aloud and discuss its contents to her audience who are also members of the public. It was not doxed material, your father chose to share that publicly. It's not your choice whether people should or should not be allowed to read it or not. Shannon did misrepresent what the website contained, but you didn't watch the video, so you wouldn't know that. I'm sorry, but even if it does trigger you to hear your father discussed, you cannot dictate whether it's brought up at all or not. It's not your call. You can tweet your followers and explain that you're uncomfortable with it being discussed and ask them not to bring it up to you directly, but you can't just demonize other people for bringing it up whatsoever. I'm sorry, but I can't get behind you on that. The rest of the video from here is just Tobi repeating her thoughts and going on several tangents and making several points I don't feel it necessary to bring up. Ultimately, Jaclyn Hill's dad as a cult leader has been unlisted as Shannon is no longer comfortable with it being up, which, to be clear, is absolutely for the best.
Then cue my Jaclyn Hill video. Now, I recently took this video down in the past couple months for one reason and one reason only, and that's because I found out things happened behind the scenes, and I am no longer comfortable with that video being up. But, seeing as that subject matter had been talked about by other YouTubers like Maggie Mayfly, as well as so many others, I stood by that video. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people felt like I was dragging things up for no reason, but the video just consisted of me reading this public figure's public website, and seeing as he was also a very public figure, I felt it was fair game. I don't stand by the video now, but that's my thought process going into it.
Again, while I will defend Shannon against the bad faith takes people made against her, I will not defend that video, nor the opinion she held in it, nor the points she made. That video was horribly put together, extremely rushed, biased, poorly thought out, uninformative, clickbaity, rambly as fuck, chock full of lies and misleading statements, and was generally unpleasant to watch. Equally as unpleasant as Tobi's videos. Tobi goes on to talk about how she's such a better person than Shannon. You know, when she chopped context from Shannon's video to make her own points appear stronger, couldn't be bothered to click the citation on Jaclyn's Wikipedia page, showed little to no evidence for a large majority of her claims, downplayed the severity of Jaclyn's contaminated lipsticks, made wild speculations based on no research and or absolutely nothing, and completely missed the one factual, glaring flaw in Shannon's video, choosing instead to focus on things that do not matter. Tobi, you are just as, if not worse than what you perceive Shannon to be. Don't pretend you're the morally superior one here. I hope I've made it abundantly clear why exactly I felt the need to rip this video a new one. Shannon is someone well worth criticizing. I've done it myself in this video, pretty harshly I might add, but not in the way Tobi went about it. And this is only part 1! No! No! Part 2 will be on Karuna Satori, aka
My Living Hell.
So, stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the sound of my voice. You'll be able to hear it again in the next one. Bye!